I was hosting a dinner party with my closest friends, feeling proud of the warm, harmonious family atmosphere Linda and I had created together. The table was perfectly set, conversation was flowing, and I felt genuinely happy about how far we had come as a blended family. That is when my 16-year-old stepdaughter, Emma, decided to humiliate me. When I politely asked her to help serve dessert instead of disappearing to her room, she exploded in front of everyone. "Don't tell me what to do. You are not even my dad." The entire room fell silent. My wife, Linda, looked at me coldly and said, "If you want to control someone, have your own child." I just smiled. Before I tell you how I showed them exactly what happens when they push the wrong stepmom too far, drop a comment letting me know where you are watching from and smash that like button if you have ever been disrespected in your own home. Trust me, what I did the next morning changed everything, and they never saw it coming. Let me paint you the picture of how I ended up in this situation. 2 years ago, I was a successful marketing manager, financially independent, and loving my single life. Then I met Linda through mutual friends at a wine tasting event. She was 38, recently divorced, and struggling to raise her teenage daughter, Emma, on her part-time administrative assistant salary. There was something vulnerable, yet strong about Linda that drew me in immediately. Our courtship was beautiful. Linda was grateful for everything I did, from expensive dinners to weekend getaways. Emma seemed to accept me too, even calling me her bonus mom during those early months. After 18 months of dating, I moved into their modest 3-bedroom house, ready to create the loving blended family I had always dreamed of. What Linda had not fully explained was the extent of their financial struggles. The mortgage payments were behind, Emma's private school tuition was constantly overdue, and there was barely enough money for groceries each week. Without hesitation, I stepped in to help. I started contributing 60% of the household expenses, which felt natural since my marketing salary was significantly higher than Linda's part-time income. Emma's private school tuition alone was $1,500 per month, and I gladly took over those payments. I wanted her to have the best education possible, understanding how important stability was for a teenager from a broken home. Beyond tuition, I funded her dance classes, music lessons, and summer camps. The girl who had grown up with financial stress suddenly had opportunities she had only dreamed about. I bought Emma expensive gifts, regularly the latest iPhone, a top-of-the-line laptop for school designer clothes that made her popular with classmates. I drove her to activities, helped with homework, and planned special outings to her favorite concerts and restaurants. Every purchase felt like an investment in our relationship and her future. But somewhere along the way, Emma's gratitude transformed into entitlement. She started demanding that I drive her places without saying thank you, treating me more like a personal chauffeur than a family member. She would use my expensive skincare products without permission, leaving my bathroom counter a mess. When her friends came over, she would order expensive takeout using my credit card, never asking if it was okay. The most concerning pattern was how Linda responded to these behaviors. Every time I tried to address Emma's increasing disrespect, Linda would make excuses. "She is just adjusting to having you in the house," became her constant refrain. "Teenagers are difficult," she would say, and she has been through so much with the divorce. Linda's guilt about the divorce had created a parenting style where Emma faced zero consequences for her actions. I started noticing how Linda never corrected Emma's behavior toward me. If Emma was rude to her, Linda would address it immediately. But when Emma treated me with disrespect, Linda acted like she had not heard anything. I convinced myself that Linda was just trying to keep peace in the household. But deep down, I knew something was fundamentally wrong with this dynamic. Recent incidents had become increasingly bold. Last month, Emma invited 8 friends over without asking and ordered $200 worth of sushi on my credit card. When I mentioned that she should ask permission for such expenses, Linda defended her. She is just being social. Is not that what we want? The week before the dinner party, Emma had used my car without permission, returning it with an empty gas tank and a new scratch on the side. Again, Linda's response was, "Accidents happen." She is still learning to drive. I had been ignoring the red flags because I genuinely loved Linda and wanted to create a stable, loving environment for Emma. I believed that patience and generosity would eventually win her respect. I was about to learn how wrong I had been. The dinner party that changed everything was supposed to be a celebration. I had invited my 3 closest friends, Jessica, my college roommate, who had become a successful lawyer, Amanda, my colleague from the marketing firm, and Kate, my neighbor, who had become a close confidant. I had spent hours preparing an elaborate menu, wanting to show off the happy family life I thought I had built. Emma was supposed to help serve dessert after dinner, a simple request that seemed reasonable for a 16-year-old who lived in our home rent-free. Instead, she disappeared to her room immediately after eating blasting music so loud that our conversation became difficult. I politely knocked on her door and asked her to turn the music down and help with our guests. That is when she unleashed the humiliation that would change everything. "Don't tell me what to do. You are not even my dad. I do not have to listen to you." Her voice was loud enough that everyone at the dinner table heard every word. The shock on my friends' faces was unmistakable. Jessica nearly choked on her wine. Amanda stared at her plate, and Kate looked like she wanted to disappear. I felt my cheeks burning with embarrassment as I returned to the table, trying to maintain composure while my friends sat in uncomfortable silence. The joyful atmosphere I had worked so hard to create was completely destroyed. Instead of addressing Emma's behavior or apologizing to my friends, Linda actually defended her daughter. "Sophie, she is going through a lot right now," Linda said in front of my guests. "Teenagers need space to express their feelings. Maybe we should be more understanding of her position in this family dynamic." The evening ended early, with my friends making polite excuses to leave. As they gathered their coats, I caught Jessica's sympathetic look and Amanda's concerned whisper to Kate, "I cannot believe she lets her stepdaughter talk to her like that." The humiliation was complete. After my friends left, I confronted Linda about what had happened. "Your daughter humiliated me in front of my closest friends," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "She disrespected me in our own home, and you did nothing to address it." Linda's response cut deeper than Emma's original outburst. "She is going through a lot, Sophie. You do not understand what it is like to be a mother. If you want to control someone, have your own child." That night, I could not sleep. I kept replaying the evening over and over, analyzing every detail. I realized that this was not an isolated incident, but the culmination of 2 years of being treated like a walking ATM rather than a family member. I decided to do some investigating. I checked Emma's social media accounts, something I had never done before, out of respect for her privacy. What I found broke my heart and opened my eyes. Her TikTok was full of posts mocking me to her friends. "My stepmom thinks she is my mom, LOL." And "Living with a fake family is so weird." Her Instagram stories showed her bragging about expensive purchases while referring to me as the ATM stepmom. The comments from her friends were even worse. They joked about using the ATM stepmom and made fun of how I tried so hard to buy Emma's love. One comment read, "At least you're getting paid to pretend to like her," with Emma responding with laughing emojis. I sat in my home office staring at bank statements that showed over $40,000 spent on Emma in the past year alone. School tuition activities, clothes, electronics, entertainment, food, transportation. Meanwhile, Linda's financial contribution was minimal, barely covering utilities with her part-time salary. The next morning, I called my best friend Jessica. "Sophie," she said, after I explained everything, "they are using you. Emma has no respect for you, and Linda enables every bit of it. What do you actually get from this relationship besides bills and disrespect?" I had no good answer. For 2 years, I had been giving everything while receiving only criticism and entitlement in return. Emma saw me as funding for her lifestyle, not as a person worthy of basic respect. Linda prioritized Emma's comfort over my dignity every single time. That is when I realized what I had to do. If they wanted to treat me like I was not family, I would show them exactly what life looked like without my family-level financial support. I woke up the next morning with absolute clarity about what needed to happen. The previous night's humiliation had lifted a fog I had been living in for 2 years. I made a detailed list of every financial contribution I made to their household and researched my legal rights regarding those contributions. My first call was to the bank. I removed Linda from access to our joint checking account and canceled the credit cards that both Linda and Emma had been using freely. 24 months of unlimited access to my money was about to end immediately. The second call was to Emma's private school, where I canceled the automatic payment for her tuition. The $1,500 monthly payment that had been coming from my account was no longer my responsibility. If Emma wanted to continue her education, someone else would have to figure out how to pay for it. By noon, my phone was ringing. Emma's school had called Linda to inform her that the tuition payment had bounced and that Emma would be suspended from classes until the account was current. Linda called me in a panic. "Sophie, what happened to Emma's tuition payment? The school says there was an error with the automatic withdrawal." I kept my voice perfectly calm. "There was no error, Linda. I am no longer paying for someone who does not respect me. Since Emma made it clear that I am not her parent, I assume parents are responsible for tuition. You cannot do this to Emma. Her education is important. She needs stability. You told me that if I wanted to control someone, I should have my own child. Well, I do not have my own child, so I am no longer responsible for yours." The panic in Linda's voice was immediate. "Sophie, please, we can talk about this. Emma is sorry about last night. She did not mean what she said." "Actually, Linda, I think she meant exactly what she said, and I am taking her at her word." I hung up and continued with my plan. I called the dance studio and canceled Emma's classes. I called her music teacher and ended her lessons. I contacted the summer camp she had been excited about attending and withdrew her application. Every single expense that I had been covering for Emma was eliminated with a phone call. The third wave of calls came that afternoon. Emma herself was now calling, crying hysterically. "Sophie, please, you cannot cancel everything. My friends are asking why I am not at dance class. The school says I cannot come back until someone pays." "Emma," I said calmly, "yesterday you made it very clear that I have no authority in your life and no familial relationship with you. I am simply respecting that boundary. Since I am not your parent, I am not responsible for your expenses. I did not mean it that way. I was just upset. Actions have consequences, Emma. You taught me exactly what my role is in this family. I am just accepting that lesson." By the fourth day, Linda was forced to face the financial reality of their situation. Without my 60% contribution to the mortgage, the payment was short. Utilities were about to be shut off because I had been paying those bills too. The grocery budget I had been funding was gone, leaving them to survive on Linda's limited income. Linda tried every manipulation tactic she could think of. She started with guilt. "I thought you loved us." When that did not work, She moved to anger. "You are destroying our family over a teenager's tantrum." Finally, she attempted threats. "If you do not start contributing again, you can find somewhere else to live." That is when I revealed my trump card. "Linda, you should check the mortgage documents. I have been paying 60% of the house payments for 2 years. I consulted with a lawyer, and I have legal rights to compensation for those contributions. Are you sure you want to escalate this?" The silence on the phone told me that Linda had not considered this possibility. She had assumed that her name on the deed gave her all the power, not realizing that my financial contributions had given me rights too. Emma's social life began crumbling as the financial consequences became apparent. She could no longer afford her usual shopping trips with friends. The expensive restaurant dinners were no longer possible. Her dance friends started asking why she had suddenly quit, and she had no good answer that did not make her look like a spoiled brat. Linda was forced to pick up extra hours at work, leaving Emma alone more often. The dynamic where Linda could focus entirely on keeping Emma happy was no longer sustainable because Linda now had to worry about basic survival expenses. The most satisfying moment came when Emma's friends started asking uncomfortable questions. "Why did your stepmom stop paying for everything?" one of them asked, according to Emma's tearful phone call to me. The truth about how badly she had treated me was beginning to spread through her social circle, and the popular girl image she had built on my money was crumbling. The first 2 weeks after I withdrew my financial support were chaotic for Linda and Emma. Linda was scrambling to cover bills that she had not paid in 2 years, trying to find extra work hours while maintaining her existing job. Emma was forced to get her first part-time job at a local coffee shop to pay for her own expenses, a concept that was completely foreign to her. I moved back to my own apartment, which I had been renting out to a tenant during my time with Linda. The freedom of having my own space again was incredible. For the first time in 2 years, I could come home to peace and quiet, with my belongings exactly where I had left them. No more finding my expensive skincare products used up, or my bathroom counter destroyed by a teenager who did not appreciate anything. My friends were incredibly supportive of my decision. Jessica told me, "We have been waiting for you to do this for months. You deserve so much better than being treated like a bank account." Amanda added, "You have a backbone again. It is wonderful to see." Even Kate, who had witnessed the dinner party humiliation, said, "That girl needed to learn some consequences, and Linda needed a reality check." 3 weeks after I moved out, Linda called crying about their financial stress. "Sophie, I cannot keep up with all these bills. Emma is struggling with working and school. Cannot we work something out? Maybe Emma can learn some responsibility by keeping her job," I suggested. "It might teach her to appreciate the things that used to be handed to her for free. But she is just a child. She should not have to work while going to school. Linda, she is 16. Most teenagers work part-time jobs. The only difference is that most teenagers also respect the people who support them." The conversation revealed how much Linda had been relying on my financial contributions without ever acknowledging them. She had gotten so used to having her bills covered that she had forgotten how to manage money independently. Emma's adjustment was even more dramatic, going from unlimited spending to counting every dollar she earned at her minimum wage job. After 3 months of separation, something interesting started happening. Emma's grades actually improved significantly. With less time for social media drama and entitled behavior, she was focusing more on schoolwork. The part-time job taught her time management skills and gave her a sense of accomplishment she had never experienced when everything was handed to her. Linda's family members started asking questions about why I was no longer around for family gatherings. When the truth came out about how Emma had been treating me, several relatives sided with my decision. Linda's own mother told her, "Sophie was nothing but generous to your family, and you let Emma treat her terribly. No wonder she left." The most significant change was in Emma herself. After 2 months of working to pay for her own expenses, she reached out to me with a genuine apology. "Sophie, I know I was horrible to you. I did not realize how much you were doing for us until I had to start paying for everything myself. I was wrong, and I am sorry." While I appreciated the apology, the damage to our relationship was permanent. Trust once broken so completely cannot be rebuilt with a few words. She had shown me exactly who she was when she thought there would be no consequences, and I believed her. 6 months after leaving, I started dating again. Meeting new people who appreciated my independence and success was refreshing. I had much higher standards now, looking for mutual respect, rather than just someone who needed my help. I learned to recognize the difference between someone who wanted to build a life with me and someone who wanted me to fund their existing life. Linda eventually admitted that she had enabled Emma's disrespectful behavior for years. The financial crisis forced her to actually parent instead of just trying to keep Emma happy. "I was so afraid of being the bad guy that I let you become the target for all her frustration," she confessed during one of our limited conversations. A year later, Emma was still working part-time and had developed a much healthier relationship with money and responsibility. She understood the value of what I had provided and genuinely regretted losing it through her own actions. Linda had learned to manage finances independently and had gained respect for how much I had been contributing to their lives. I occasionally had coffee with Linda to check on how they were doing, but our romantic relationship was over. I had learned too much about how she prioritized Emma's comfort over basic respect for me. The pattern of enabling and excusing bad behavior was too deeply ingrained to overcome. The most important lesson I learned was the difference between helping someone and enabling them. For 2 years, I thought I was being loving and supportive, but I was actually preventing Emma from learning important life skills like gratitude, responsibility, and respect. My withdrawal of support taught her more valuable lessons than my years of generosity ever had. I also learned to recognize my own worth beyond what I could provide financially. In future relationships, I would look for partners who valued me as a person, not as a solution to their financial problems. Love without mutual respect is not sustainable, and generosity without appreciation becomes exploitation. The experience taught me that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is to let them face the natural consequences of their choices. Emma needed to learn that disrespect has a price, and Linda needed to understand that enabling bad behavior hurts everyone involved, including the person being enabled. Have you ever been taken for granted by people you were trying to help? How do you handle disrespect from family members, especially when your partner does not support you? Share your experiences in the comments below, and do not forget to hit that like button if this story reminded you of the importance of setting boundaries in your relationships. Subscribe for more stories about standing up for yourself and recognizing your own worth, even when it means making difficult decisions. Please share this video with anyone who needs to hear that respect should never be optional in a loving relationship. Remember, you teach people how to treat you by what you are willing to accept, and sometimes stepping back is the best way to teach someone to step up. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it gives you the courage to value yourself enough to demand the respect you deserve from everyone in your life, especially those you love most.